Hi everyone, welcome to our panel session on how to make an internal network work. We have three fantastic assistants here with us today who have all set up incredible networks within their organisation and externally in the city that they live in. I'm going to ask our panel to introduce themselves first and their network, and then we will talk about the benefits of having an assistant network, how to set one up, and the benefits that come from being part of a network when you are an assistant. So Simone, if we can start with you, could you introduce yourself and please let us know a little bit about the network and how you set it up and where you are going with it now?
Perfect. Thanks so much, Nikki. So my name is Simone White, and as Nikki highlighted, I set up an internal organisation for assistants. It's a global network called GAIN, which stands for Global Administrative Initiative Network. The network is now 2 years old at global level. Actually, this year it will be 2. But I initially started with a EMEA-wide network called ACE. About me, I'm an assistant. I've been doing this for 20 plus years now. I'll leave it at that because I forget the number exactly. I love doing what I do. And the reason why I set up an internal network is because as assistants, there's so much we need to know. And we're not often given that information by the organisation itself. It's almost as if we just naturally should know things, and it was something we didn't actually know. So I set up the GAIN network to really help support not just assistants, but also the firm itself, because the firm needed a good foundation of assistants, and the assistants needed to know their craft well. And we found that was lacking. But by having a network, it supports assistants to do their job and raise the bar.
Brilliant. Thank you, Simone. And Carmel, if you could introduce yourself and let us know again a little bit about the network.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Carmel Bond. I run the Melbourne EA group here in Melbourne, Australia. I originally started the group because I wanted to learn and meet other EAs. I had lots of friends in different industries, but no assistants. So I wanted somebody to be able to learn from and to talk to. And so I set up the Melbourne EA group by just putting a word out to some people and saying, you know, if you'd like to catch up for lunch or after work and you know, exchange some details, then let's do that. Our first event, we started with in someone's boardroom with 20 people, and now we've been going 5 years on, and we have over 1,000 members, and we run monthly excuse me, we run monthly events, and we do newsletters and we share information. We have online resources that we can use to help each other, and it's a great little support group for assistants here in Melbourne.
Fantastic. And over to you, April, if you could let us know a little bit about yourself and the network.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm April Stallworth, and the name of the network that I set up is called HEART. HEART stands for Helping Empower Administrative Support Professionals Through Resources and Training, because I truly believe that administrative support professionals are the heart of every business, every organization, every nonprofit, or whatever your business environment is. And I decided to form the HEART group because I was mad. I was mad. I really was. I was mad because at the particular place that I was working at the time, which was a public school district here in the States, there was no acknowledgement for Administrative Support Professionals Week or the day. And I couldn't understand why that wasn't being recognized. And so at the time, I started asking my executive a bunch of questions, and he didn't know what to say. And so he said, well, what should we be doing? And I said, well, I'm glad you asked. And then the HEART program was born. That was back in 2014. And again, it was in a public school district here in the United States. And since that time, I have moved on from that school district to another school district. And we just launched HEART here a couple of years ago. So it's still growing strong. I'm glad about that I was able to have the chance to do it in the new place that I work. but this time I did it with a committee so that I didn't kill myself again. That has worked out really well. And I wanted to form Heart, not only because I was mad that we weren't being recognized, but I just feel like we're better together, and that oftentimes as assistants, we work really isolated a lot of times. Sometimes we have to interact with each other, but I could go a whole day without having to interact with other assistants, and that's not good for us. We all need each other, and so I thought it was important that we had a place where we could come together, we could train, we could network, we could share resources, and so that was really what was on my heart when I wanted to start Heart. And so fortunately, it's been super, super rewarding, not just for me, but even for the management in the different places that I've worked, that they see how much capital that we have and how strong that we really are, because we took the time to come together and make our workplace better.
Okay, so we're going to run through some questions with you guys, because I know a lot of our audience will have a lot of questions about networks. Either they already have an external network in the area that they live, or they have an internal network, or they have nothing. So I know a lot of assistants are like, well, how do we even set these up? What happens when it is set up? What's the benefits? How do we get this thing rolling? So I'm going to start with you, April. If we can talk about the actual value that you've already alluded to it, but the actual value that assistants get from having a network.
I think it's important because, again, we often feel isolated in our jobs, and oftentimes, not all places, but administrative support professionals are not always looked at as professionals. And it's challenging in an educational environment because you have a bunch of really super smart people that have big degrees and big letters behind their names. And we're not often given the same level of respect sometimes because maybe we don't have a doctorate. Maybe you came right out of high school and started in the assistant field. Some of us do have advanced degrees, but not everybody. But yet everybody is valuable, and everybody brings knowledge and experience and wisdom to the job. And so by having a network, we started to raise our capital and to raise our profile within the organization. And with the Heart program, one of the things that happened in the first district where I formed the program, we actually won a national award. And so that really put us on the map, and people started taking notice of the program. And so I think it's just important, not only for, again, for the actual assistants, for what it all brings to them and the collaborative space that you now create in your environment, but what it says to the rest of your coworkers when you walk with your head a little higher, when you're working more collaboratively with your teammates, when you're coming up with ideas that can help save the corporation money, or can do things that will help the corporation or the business or the school district realize its vision because of the contribution that support professionals are making. So there's any number of reasons why it's important and it's valuable. And so we've been able to realize quite a few of those in some of the work that we've done here.
Absolutely. I can see, Simone and Carmel, that you're both nodding away. Is there anything you'd like to add there from your own experience, the value that it's added for the assistants within the networks?
I think the amount of time as workers we spend in our workplace, it's a lot of time. And often, although we hear the words that we're appreciated, and normally this comes from individuals, so your individual boss might appreciate you. Most organizations, I use the term, often treat us like furniture, in that we're a necessity, we're there, so you have to have the tables and chairs, but you don't really need to maintain tables and chairs. You give them a wipe, you give them a polish, but that's it. You don't have to grow them. but they recognize when the chair or the table's not there. And that's normally when something's gone wrong. And having a network really starts to change the mindset, not just of assistants, which I think is important, but of the organizations that we actually sit and support, in that it helps us to realize and to really prove the impact that we have collectively. And I think that's what moves the dial, because if you speak to organizations that are pushing their staff or their talent pool, it's because they know that those people make an impact. If they don't believe you can make an impact, you get the niceties, but you don't get all of the development. And by having a network, it allows you to work collaboratively, like April said, but it allows you to have a bigger voice. So it's not just you as one person trying to change the dial. It's maybe 10 of you or 20, or in our case, 500 of us globally. And that makes a very big difference. And it significantly helps ourselves as assistants, but it also helps the organization, as long as you get their mindset to shift. But you have to show them the impact you make.
Absolutely. So let's talk about when you guys first set up the networks and the challenges that you faced, because some people would look at, there will be challenges and they might think they're just insurmountable. So, and you guys are all here to say that they're not, because you've done it. So Simone, if we start with you, and April, if you can comment on this as well from an internal network point of view. What were the challenges that you faced, and how did you get the buy-in from your executives to start the network? So Simone, if we start with you, what were the challenges that you faced when you first started?
I'm going to start with a positive first, because the one thing I think with an internal network, you have to know your environment. So the environment that I was in at the company I'm at is that there were already networks in the business. So there was already a women's network, for instance. So having a network wasn't something foreign to the company. Any network that was global had senior sponsors to it. So I already had kind of a pattern to look at. I had a template. But I think what was different was, before we did have a PA network before I set up its current form. But when I say network, the most polite way to put it would be that you would most probably get together a couple of times and you would have a moan fest. That's the polite word. But nothing really constructive came out of it. So it was a network to get to, it wasn't constructive. And the challenges were as assistants, I think we're very much used to knowing what the outcome needs to be and following the instruction. But as a network, this was different. And also we were going to be different for what the firm already had. So the firm had what we call affinity networks, or you might call an affinity network. So if you wanted to support women's careers, then you didn't have to be a woman, but you could be part of the women's network and you would build women's careers. As an assistant network, it wasn't only something that was there to help support assistants, but I also became a bit operational as well. So it was, if we saw something wrong in the business, we would need to find stakeholders to help us make something right. So it was slightly different. And I think the biggest challenge was most probably myself, in that I had to believe that I had the right to speak up about something, and then someone would listen and actually want to listen. So for me, it was getting over my own fear of, yes, I knew we had to do something and I knew it would be impactful for the business and I knew it would be impactful for assistants, but I need to build up the courage to say why it would benefit the firm. And then I think the second challenge was trying to encourage assistants to support the network. Because a lot of it was, but I don't have time to come away from my desk and do training. I don't have time to do this because my day job takes up so much. But we needed our own community to support the network, for the firm to view it as viable to support the network. It wasn't a case where the environment was, okay, we need to support women or we need to support diversity. It's something that we need to champion. So let's champion and then bring the people along. It was, we had to say, look, we're here. We need championing. Look what we're actually managing to do. Give us some more support and we could do more. So it was changing the mindsets of assistants themselves to make them believe that they are empowered. You just need to take that step.
Wow. Yeah, that's also true. April, you're nodding away there. Did you have that experience yourself?
Yeah, similar to what was just said by Simone about selling it to the assistants, because they're like, yeah, we heard this, like kind of like we heard this before, or nothing's going to change, or this is the, flavor of the month, and why should we waste our time? So we did have a bit of that. The other challenge, the other couple of challenges for us was that my executive at the time had to be the one to sell it to his peers and to his boss, because he wasn't the ultimate decision maker. So I supported what is known as a cabinet member at the time, who reported to the superintendent. He was the top person. So he had to sell it. So we kind of had to put a plan together that said, why is this good for the school district? How does this help students? How does this help parents? How does this help the community? Why should we invest in this? Either invest in time, money, giving you folks the time off that you need to be able to do this away from your desk. And so we had to make sure that we could show the return on investment for the district, because they want to know, any business wants to know, well, what's the bottom line? What's in it for the business? Yeah, that's great. It's going to be awesome for you guys to get together. But at the end of the day, we work for companies that, the bottom line is the dollar. And in our case, in the school district, the bottom line are the students. And when we were operating off of taxpayers' money. So why should we do this? And so we had to lay that out clearly, that this is going to give you a higher level professional. This is going to reduce turnover. This is going to reduce errors. And all of that equates to money. So the less turnover you have, the less you have to spend training and getting somebody new. The more satisfied people are in their job, the better job they're going to do. If they have a better morale. So we had to just kind of point all those things out and make sure that we could sell this, not only to the assistants, but we had to be able to sell it to management. So being real clear on the vision and being real clear on what's in it for everybody was definitely important, and could have been a challenge if we didn't have that laid out beforehand, because we went to the table knowing the kind of questions that were going to be asked as to why this should be done, because it hadn't been done before. It was something new. And whenever you try something new, you're going to come up against some resistance, because we're creatures of habit. We don't like to do new stuff. We want to stay in our cocoon or doing things the same way, even though we're miserable. So it's important to be ready to really lay it out there as to why this makes sense. So if you don't want to have that challenge, be clear in your own self before you move forward with something like this.
Yeah, and I think you both made a really good point there, and you brought it home there, April. You really need to understand how a network can help the bottom line, because particularly for internal networks, it is all about that, isn't it? So yeah, you have to put a business case together in a lot of ways. Carmel, we bring you in. What was the challenge you found setting up an external network? For me, I would imagine it was kind of like spreading the word and marketing the network. So how did you go about doing that?
Yeah, so similar to the internal networks, we constantly, we have a few challenges, but we face those challenges on a daily basis. So how do we keep growing the group without really knowing how many assistants are out there to reach? Luckily for me and for the Melbourne EA group, the members have actually spread the word themselves. So a lot of people are actually finding out from word of mouth. So one of the other thing that we're finding is a lot of Google searching. So more and more people are actually searching for somewhere or some network for them to be a part of, or something for them to be able to grow with and meet new people and all of those amazing things that networks do for you. So yeah, I guess that's the biggest challenge that we face. But a couple of other challenges that we face is especially doing monthly events. We constantly are trying to show organizations or venues or event planners, etc., exactly what we're trying to do. So we want to show assistants that there's so much more to Melbourne when they're looking for venues, etc., to organise things, because our job is changing so much. We're not only just assistants, but we're turning into office managers and event planners and all these other things that, you know, people just think, oh, you guys can do that. Can you do that? You just do, you know, so you kind of get thrown these things that you wouldn't necessarily do. And because you've done it once, oh, well, she did it last time, so she can just do it again. So you kind of pick up these skills, let's say, that you can add into your position. And so that's one of the problems, or not problems, but the challenges that we face is being able to offer something new every month, and being able to grow the group and yeah. So, and I agree with all of the other challenges that the girls were saying before, because we face the same things. Like, how do we actually get a member to, or someone to sign up as a paid member or even a free member, and for them to understand exactly what they're going to gain from the network. So, yeah.
So it's a lot, from what everybody has said, there's a lot of education around the assistants and changing their mindset. That's really interesting, because it's something that from a training point of view as well, it's a challenge for me. It's the constant, you're worthy of this, you deserve this, you know, your peers are getting this. So it's interesting that you have the same thing about a networking group as well. So let's have a talk about something that, again, I know a lot of people would want to ask the three of you. With the full-time jobs, the full-time full-on jobs that you all have, how did you, and I know you guys have got families and other responsibilities and pressures outside of work as well as busy jobs. So how did you find the time, or even, I hate to say, but the inclination to take these networks forward? Because as you said, it's a constant thing, constantly wanting to grow them, wanting to get them recognised. So Carmel, if we start with you, how did you find the time to set the network up?
Sure. So like you said, I work a full-time job from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. I have 2 young children, a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old. But luckily enough, I have a very, very supportive husband who probably doesn't really understand what I do, but just lets me do what I do. So he, you know, if I say to him, hey, I'm going to be late this night, or, you know, I've got to do this, yeah, no problem. Like even this morning, getting ready for today's session, he had to take both the children in the morning. Normally we have one each, and we drop them off in the mornings on our way to work. He was like, yep, no problem, that's fine, I can take the kids. So
he sounds great.
He really is. And I think it's really important to have really supportive people around you, because that does make a huge difference, and it's made a huge difference for me. So if my husband wasn't around, I've needed my family to help me go and pick up my kids from care or from school and look after them at night. I've had to come back early from holidays at times to run an event and leave half of my family in a different state and bring my son, who at the time was only about 7 weeks old, bring him back with me, have someone look after him, then go out and do the event and come. So just having that support around you is really, really important. And I guess for me, everything happens after hours. Once I get home from work around 6 p.m, I feed the kids and bath them, put them to bed. And then by that time it's 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I'm working until, 10:30 at night. And then I'm off to bed, and it's sort of the same sort of thing a few nights a week. So there's lots of time there. If you really enjoy something, you just make the time. But for me, it's never really felt like an extra job or a chore. It's something that I've really enjoyed doing. So it doesn't really feel like it's a burden on my life. And like I said, I've been really lucky to have lots of supportive people around me, and the members are very supportive as well. If I've ever needed help, they've always been there. They've turned up at 4:30 in the morning to help me with the conference that I run on my own with 200 people. So very lucky.
You're both nodding. April, again, how you speak with such passion about the networks that you run. And does it come from a point of just having to be passionate about it, do you think? Because it can be quite overwhelming, I would imagine, if you don't have that passion for what you do.
Yeah. I agree with everything Carmel said, but yeah, you got to have a passion for it, because we will find the time for the things that we are passionate and that are a priority in our life. So if it's not something you're super passionate about or a priority for you, then it's going to kind of fall to the wayside, and you're only going to give it a 20% effort. But I know the things, and I'm real careful about getting involved and spreading myself too thin. We've all been there where we've done that and burned it on both ends. And then we're just an ash kind of in between. We've all been there. I mean, I'm a mom too. I don't have little kids anymore, but I remember that season. And so, I made some decisions some years ago that, like, this is crazy. Like, I have to be super focused on a small number of things. And that's where my energy and my time's going to go. My energy, my time, my money, my sleepless nights, that's where they go. And I've learned how to say no to things that fall outside of those domains. And that's one of the hardest things I think for us as women, is to say no. Because we don't want to let people down. We don't want to offend people. We don't want to seem like we can't handle it all. And so we say yes to things that we probably shouldn't. So if it has to do with a certain number of things, you're gonna get me in every time. But if it's outside of that, the answer is no. So we find time for what's a priority, and I can totally relate to, lunch times, after hours, before hours. I'm working in my car. It's dangerous. I shouldn't do it, but I do it anyhow. I'm working, I'm on the phone, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm like doing stuff. Like I breathe and live the stuff that I'm passionate about. And so I don't have, like I said, younger kids anymore, but I work full time. I have a business part time. I go to school. I'm active in my church. I'm active in my community. Those are all things that are the priority for my life in the season and that bring me joy. And so I do them. It doesn't even feel like I'm working. It doesn't even feel like, because they're all things that are heart issues for me. Yeah, heart. Yeah, my brother. I'm talking about.
You've got this marketing talk down straight away. I love it.
Yeah. So you will find time for the things that are important for you. Because let me tell you something. If Miss Oprah Winfrey or Miss Beyonce call me and they got tickets and they want me to come see them, I'm going. I don't care what's on their calendar. Right?
I'm coming.
Right?
I'm coming.
Right.
Don't leave me out.
Right. So find that thing, those things for you that you would clear your calendar for. That's what you should be working on.
And just Simone, to bring you in, because again, I know you're in a very similar environment and set up with your life. You must have to have that passion to also bring everybody with you on the network's journey. So is that how you found being able to do all of this?
Definitely. I think having a passion, as April and Carmel have already brought out, it gets you beyond the times when you are sitting there and people are not understanding what you're trying to do, or maybe something has just gone really badly. It was really interesting when April said at the beginning she started the network because she was mad. Some of that I actually get, because as I said, I've been an assistant a really long time, and it wasn't until that I think I'm 8 years, my son is 10, just about to turn 10. So I'm 8 years into this networking journey, and it literally was because something happened to a peer of mine and it just didn't seem fair. And then it kind of made me look up from me being a really good assistant, really managing my stuff for my team and understanding what I was doing, to realizing there's a much bigger picture that I am not seeing here. And because of that, I thought, is there something I can do? And it grew and grew over the time. And you have to have the passion for when things are going wrong. So not just when things are going right. But I also think if you have that passion, people view you as authentic, and your biggest challenges are often your peers, because they already do what we do, right? So they know how hard it is. Or so if your peers do not think you're authentic, or that you're just doing it to gain a title or to gain visibility, they will see that. So it's really, when I'm speaking to other assistants, whether it be via mentoring or as a phone call, I am always the same. But when I start talking about what I'm doing in this space, they can hear the passion about it. They can see that I'm enjoying it. And I love it. I have to. I started the journey when my son was 2 years old. I built the network over that time. I came back from maternity and my daughter was 11 months old, and I took the network global. So it was having the ability to, yes, it would be tiring, sometimes it's exhausting, but I put it down to having that passion, wanting to make a change, wanting to make a difference, that has kept it going. And then when you see something change, or you see another assistant, suddenly something clicks in them, that's the best bit, because they get that motivation and suddenly they're the ones doing it. And you're like, yes, that's the fire I needed. So I think you have to have that passion, but you also have to have that desire to push it through. It isn't something that you can turn around and say, okay, I've done that much. It's not going to get any further. You really have to, if you really believe a certain outcome is possible, keep trying. Don't try until you're dead on the floor. You have to know the limitations within your organization or your market. You have to know your market. But that passion is what keeps you going and feeds you through those difficult times.
Fantastic. Well, can I just say, you guys are incredible, and the networks that you have are so lucky to have the three of you. And we are so lucky as an industry to have the three of you, because you are making change and making a contribution and making a difference. And I just want to thank you, all three of you, for doing that and doing it off your own backs and in your own time. I know that you're all an inspiration. So thank you so much for everything that the three of you do.
Thank you, Nikki.
That's it.